Okay, so get this. Someone wrote in and wants us to do a deep dive on Sonic the Hedgehog 2,
Right.
Prince,
Interesting combination.
and like a musical mystery that's been going around the internet forever. And I'm just like, I'm getting some serious 90s vibes from this.
Yeah, you know what's so fascinating about this whole thing is that this rumor that Prince was somehow involved in the music for Sonic 2, it just won't go away.
I was like, come on, guys, really.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's interesting enough to at least look into it, right?
Absolutely.
Especially the Chemical Plant Zone music.
Yeah.
And, as we go through this, we'll be looking at some really interesting like musical parallels and some of those crazy fan theories out there.
Yeah.
Even though there's absolutely zero hard evidence to back any of this up.
Right.
But hey, you know what? It wouldn't be a deep dive if we didn't at least,
Explore it a little bit.
explore it, right?
Exactly. And, just to throw this out there, Sonic 3 actually did feature music by Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
It was confirmed later on. But, that just adds fuel to the fire for these kinds of rumors, right?
It does. I mean, you start to wonder who else might have been involved in these soundtracks that we just don't know about.
Right, exactly.
But so let's get back to this Prince theory.
Okay.
People are saying that Sonic 2's soundtrack has a very similar feel, particularly Chemical Plant Zone,
Yes.
to some of Prince's work.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that both Prince and Masato Nakamura, who was the composer for Sonic 2, they were both kind of working within the same, I don't know, like musical era, right? Like
Yeah.
we're talking late 80s, early 90s. That's when funk, electronic music, and just that whole like synth heavy vibe was just massive.
Yeah.
It was everywhere.
So let's actually listen to these back to back. I think that's the best way for everyone to really understand what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So first we'll hear a little bit of Chemical Plant Zone from Sonic 2, and then we'll hear Glam Slam by Prince. So listen closely and really pay attention to the overall feel and like the instrumentation. Let's give it a listen. Okay, so there you have it. I mean, I can definitely hear what people are talking about.
Yeah.
That driving beat those super bright synths,
Right, it's very similar.
very similar energy.
Yeah.
But so is it really a case of, Prince's influence, or is it just kind of like a product of that shared musical landscape that we were talking about?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
So think about it this way. Lamb Slam, that's pure Prince.
Okay.
He wrote it, he composed it, the whole thing. It was released in 1988 on his Love Sexy album.
Got it.
But Chemical Plant Zone, that's all Masato Nakamura.
So, okay, so if Prince wasn't involved, then who is this Masato Nakamura guy?
Yeah, so Nakamura wasn't just like some random video game composer. He was actually a pretty successful like Japanese pop/rock musician.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was part of a band called Dreams Come True.
Interesting.
And while there's no evidence to suggest that he was like a diehard Prince fan specifically,
Yeah.
it's impossible to say for sure, what influences he drew from, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You never really know what's going on in someone's head and
Yeah.
like what they're listening to and stuff.
And I think this brings up a really interesting point, though. Like, how often do musicians kind of unintentionally echo each other just because they're swimming in the same musical waters, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like we're all influenced by the stuff around us, right?
Absolutely.
So, how much of that is just like seeping into their music without them even realizing it.
Yeah, and artists are sponges.
Yeah.
They're absorbing inspiration from everywhere. And
Yeah.
sometimes those influences, they just manifest in ways that sound remarkably similar.
Yeah.
Even if it's totally subconscious.
It makes you think about like the nature of creativity.
Sure.
It's like how much is truly original and how much is built upon what came before it.
Absolutely. And, this isn't just limited to music. This applies to like art,
Oh, yeah.
literature, fashion, anything you can think of.
Right.
We're all products of our influences.
So I guess the question is like, where does this leave us with the whole Prince and Sonic 2 mystery?
Right. So at the end of the day, there's just no credible evidence to link Prince directly to the game.
Yeah,
But we can't definitively say it's impossible.
I guess not.
But, based on what we know about Nakamura, his background, and that whole musical landscape of the time, it's much more likely that any similarities are just coincidental.
Yeah, it seems like we've effectively debunked the myth. But honestly, I think we've stumbled upon something even more interesting.
What's that?
Just this whole idea of how musical trends and influences like ripple through culture
Yeah.
and sometimes create these uncanny parallels.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that even when artists aren't directly collaborating, their work can still be interconnected in these like subtle and fascinating ways.
Exactly. So I guess here's something for everyone to think about as you go about your day. How often do you hear a song and you immediately start drawing comparisons to other artists or genres, only to find out later that those connections were totally coincidental? It just makes you think about the evolution of music and like the whole creative process as a whole.
Absolutely.
Well, that about wraps it up for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you next time.
See ya. Bye.